So we start by inserting. I'm going to just turn Smart Display on, so down the bottom here you'll see the letters. If I push a letter, it highlights it, so you can always rewind it. So Shift A, I'm going to add in an empty image and align to view so that it should, there it is, just got a little bit smaller. I'm going to put the picture in here, okay?
Yep.
So then I'm going to click this one that looks like an upside down Y and then open the image, which I stack in desktop, X for query, screenshot, open image. So there's the X that we're going to be modeling. Just going to make everything a little bit bigger. The first thing to think about is what are the main shapes, and the first part I reckon is probably a round post stick thing, whatever. So I'm going to left click, and that's the 3D cursor. I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to add in a mesh, and I'm going to choose cylinder, and it's got 32 vertices on it, and that's more than it needs to be. You don't have to change it, but I will. I'll just show you how to change it. I'm going to go divide by 2, and that'll turn into 16. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale that in the blue axis, which is Z. So scale Z, and pull it down, and then go, hey, that's kind of about right. Scale Z. Ta-da! I've done the first bit. I'm going to pull that forward so it's not getting interfered with. Some things that I will do to make that look better in the end is you'll see all these different segments. So I'm going to change, so on the side there, shading UVs. If I go faces smooth, then it stops that from being rounded, from being square, sorry. And the other thing that we really commonly do is add a modifier. So that little spanner there, we go subdivision surface, but it starts to taper it and does some weird divisions and things. This I still recommend doing. I'm going to do Control R for a loop cut and then bring it up near the end. So if we look at that, it doesn't look quite so crazy now on the end. And same on the other side. Control R and then bring that down. And the cool thing that it's going to do is it's going to give it a roundedness to the edges. On the ends, both ends, I want to stop it from looking weird, so you can kind of see, hey, the shading looks strange there. So I'll go to face mode, click that one, I for inset, and then drag that in, and that's basically solved my problem. And same on the other end. Right, so we've got a thing done there. Depending on how much of these sticks and twigs you want to put on there, if I was going to be doing that, I'll just make one and you can do the rest yourself. So we'll just go Control R. There, so that gives me a little bit of space for me to think about where am I going to pull that out from, and I'll go face select and pick that one. So if I go E to extrude, and out comes that. So you'll see it's all pulling off strangely there. So I'll put in another loop cut up here and come down, and you see how that changes it. So what's happening is mathematically it's doing a division from those points and those points and those points. But if it's really far away, like what miles down here, then it pulls out. But you can adjust those to the position you want them to be in. So there's a little bit that's popped out, and then you know, this part I think is just free play. There's no real right and wrong here. Maybe it does have a split, because that kind of looks like it's got a split. E and then down and rotate. You know, this one here can kind of come out, grab, rotate, scale, E, scale bigger, E, scale smaller, so it's got a bit of a knobbly bit on the end there. See that kind of a thing? So that's sort of how I'm imagining you doing those types of parts. So then what I would do is come out of this mode and go to edit mode. So I just push tab, and I'm going to start making this axe head. So I'm going to put the 3D cursor here and Shift A and then add in a plane. I'm going to rotate that to the camera view, so align to view. Otherwise I could just go R, Y 90, and I'm going to probably just pull it over to there and start this way. Tab and then scale. So something like that is a good start point. And because I can't see through it, what I like to do sometimes is set for wireframe, and now I can see through it. And then I can like vertice select for this. Might divide this a little bit. These little parts I would recommend doing a little later.
Yep.
And I can see this kind of tapers from that point, so I'll probably think about doing all of my divisions and making things look square. So that's probably taper into there, and then I will just kind of space these out evenly. That's just how I would do it. There's no right and wrong here, it's just what works for you. E to extrude, S to scale, bring it down, E to extrude, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of keeping in mind these being square. So that one came a bit wide, so I'll just double tap G and bring that extrude, S to scale, and I'm just making adjustments. E to extrude, S to scale, and I don't think it has to be exact fitting here. We can make some adjustments later though, and E to extrude, S to scale, and as this gets really a whole lot bigger, then I'll start to split this. You don't want them getting super large, so at this point I might start to pull down from the bottom. Then I'll probably pull down through here, I think. And then they start getting really narrow, so what we might do is merge some of them.
Yep.
So these ones here in the middle, I'm going to highlight those, and if I don't know where something is, I can hit the search button, which in this case is the space bar, and I can start typing merge. It's Alt-M, you'll see on the edge there, that's the shortcut key, and then you can choose where to merge those. I'm going to merge those at center. Whoops, that went the wrong option. Z, Alt-M, merge at center, not cursor, and then they've merged here like that. Then extrude, scale, extrude, scale, extrude, scale, something like that. And obviously you can make little adjustments to make it the shape that you want. So that is just a flat plane shape. And what I would look at doing is, you'd think, hey, it's going to be probably wider through the middle part here. I'm going to look from the top and push 7, and I'm going to bring that probably not all the way to the middle at the moment. I'm going to mirror this, so I'm going to make the right side and the left side is going to be made by the computer. So the thing that looks like a tool here, add modifier, and I'm going to choose mirror. Mirror, there it is. And there's different axes that it's reflecting in. You can kind of see it's reflecting off to the left through this point here. That little dot is the origin point. So if I untick X, you'll see that one disappears. And that one's upside down, and it's likely to be this one here. And you'll see there's a tiny separation because that's the origin point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that origin point go here. So I click there with my 3D cursor, and then I'm going to go spacebar for search, origin. I'm going to set origin to 3D cursor, and I can't do that in edit mode. Repeat that, set origin to 3D cursor, so there it is, and it's going to reflect that way. So what I'm going to do, go back to edit mode, is I'm going to taper this part into the middle and that into the middle as well. I'm going to highlight this edge, and if I hold Alt-click, that's going to get that whole edge here. And if I just grab that, then I'm only moving one part. So I kind of want to taper it through there. So there's this cool tool called proportional editing. So I push the letter O, and when I start to grab now, GX, you'll see that circle. And if I scroll on the mouse wheel, it changes the size of that circle. And so I can sort of taper that whole part there. And I don't want it to go too far because you'll see up there on the post that's kind of defeating the purpose. If I bring that in, that's starting to kind of make it look like an axe head. And then I'm I'm going to do that G again, but scroll down on that, and then they've gone too far past each other. But if I tick clipping, GX, pull back out, and they are nearly right. So if I need to do any fix-ups down here, I think I've just pulled too hard on that. Undo clipping there, pull that one out, that one, pull that one out. And I've got something that looks a lot like an axe head. I think those are pulled together too as well. So there's a bit of an axe head. There's a bit of a gap through here, which I'll fill in. Highlight those. Extrude x-axis. Make sure clipping's on. GX, turn proportional editing off. GX, pull apart. And essentially repeat that around here. GX, turn off proportional editing. Extrude on the x-axis. Undo. Keep pushing the wrong buttons. E, X. So there's the filling in the shape of my axe. And again, repeating on the end. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a blunt end or a pointy end. Bludgeon. Okay, so let's go with that. Take that part and also through there. Through there. I'm pushing C for circle, and it allows me to highlight like that. E for extrude, and I don't want it to be in crazy angles, so I'm going to push X for x-axis, so it's going to be only in that direction. So I've got a lot of my axe head done. EX, and something like that, and then you see this gap here. I can just fill that in, highlight by getting all the bits around the outside, push F to fill. And this part here, we want to make a bit of a circle going on. And I want it to make sort of the same size and shape as that. So various different options. 7. I'm going to go to do it slightly more complex. So that cylinder is here. I'm going to highlight that edge loop here around the outside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate, Shift D, and you see I've got an extra duplicate here. I'm going to scale that slightly bigger. Actually, I'm going to separate that first, space, separate, SEP, separate by selection, so that's now a separate part, and it's now called cylinder 1, so I can move that separately. Scale it slightly bigger, just enough so it's bigger than that one. Now, probably the wrong height though. Pull that down, and now what I want to do is I want to make that, rotate slightly, I want to connect that all up and make that part of this axe head. So if I highlight both of those things, edit mode, object mode now, shift click both of those, I'm going to join them, Control J. Now they're the same part, but they're all sort of lined up. Now my issue here is I've got more segments here than I do here. Let's delete this back half because I don't need those vertices because it's going to be mirrored. What I'm going to do, I could probably do some loop cuts. One there, that's going to line up for that one. One there, that's going to line up for that one. There. Fill, see that? Highlight, fill. Probably want to go that way. Loop cut there. Extrude that. And I don't really want triangles, but that'll just have to be a triangle there for now, I think. Maybe not. Extrude. Yeah, really want to avoid triangles if possible. Extrude there. Loop cut there. And extrude. And then again, repeating a lot of this up the front part. there, I think. Fill that, subdivide it. How many sides is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's bad, so do it over that side. Probably subdivide that one. 4 sides, but I don't like how it's not symmetrical, so I have to think about how can I adjust that. They match, those sides match, this side doesn't. Don't like that at all. I'll just for now leave that as a 5-sided and fix it later. So there's essentially the top part of my axe, and the same kind of thing would need to be done down near the bottom. But essentially that's the way I would be looking at modelling of an axe. Later on I would put in dents and so on. I'd do that with sculpting. So if I jump quickly into sculpting, this probably doesn't have enough subdivisions to allow me to do that. So if I highlight all of that, oops, do that, add modifier and then subdivision surface. You see how that's kind of rounding a little bit. Perhaps I don't want to be quite like that. And then this has got, maybe if I go 2 levels of subdivision, and if I then click, is there anything on there that you can see that doesn't really look very even? I think these ones probably could do with evening up the size. You see what I'm doing? Trying to make them, definitely that one. Right, so that gives me some more to think about, though none of those are square. Sorry, I'm sort of doing it manually there. I probably should just use this setting over here. So what I'm going to do with this is permanently apply the subdivision surface. So if I go apply, I think I've got to do that in object mode apply, you'll see I've got tons more now.
Yep.
So with this, if I push and pull them, I've got more detail. So instead of edit mode, I come into sculpt mode, and then I can start bashing and denting and that sort of stuff. So inflate, deflate, let's start there. Inflate, I might probably deflate. Let's put some dents in it. F brings my size up, or I could drag it over there. So if I just start with a nice small brush, and then I've got strength, Shift F, really strong, really weak. So let's put in, looks like we've got a very big dent there. So let's, strength's not strong enough. Start seeing it denting. At the moment, symmetry's on because I've got the mirror. You see the mirror? So anything I do on one side is going to do on both. So if you don't want that, and you want it to be different on both sides, then you'd probably have to apply the mirror modifier. So now you've got geometry that's on both sides. So I can, now that's come together. We don't really like that much, but to sculpt mode, and we can start putting dents all over it. Dents, deflating, other ones that we might do. Scrape, let's see what that comes out like. And we'll make it look like we've put scrape marks in it. Now, there's a limit to what sort of detail I can do based on the geometry of this.
Yep.
There are modifiers that we can put on to give you more, which I think, again, we could do that subdivision surface and do it, but multi-resolution is another one that is often used. Subdivide there. So that's not applied, but you see I've got more detail, so you can start adding more sculpting detail. And I think you had some chips out the front. And you can start putting in dents and scratches and that sort of idea. So I think that's probably enough to get you going. If you know what the key words are and key terms, then I think that's probably enough to get you going. There may be a few errors here and there, like that part would need to come back and get fixed. And obviously I rushed the bottom just for showing you the purposes, but I think that's probably the idea about making that look there. We would then later put texturing on here, make that look metal, texturing on that, make that look like it's wood, but I think that's one way to test it out and see does that work the way you want it to.